Hello, everyone, and welcome to Small Talk with the Etsy Collective, a session in which we bring you closer to change makers and industry experts for insights and a lot of inspiration. I'm Sunanda Krishna, and I'm the PR and marketing lead for Etsy in India. In today's session, we have the wonderful Maximiliano Modesti joining us. He wears so many hats. He's an entrepreneur, he's a design enthusiast, a craft revivalist, and a true Indophile. He will be speaking about how we can celebrate the legacy of India's artisans on a global landscape. And as he has said that we can call him Max, so welcome to this Etsy session, Max.
Thank you, Sunanda. Thank you for having me here today.
Thank you so much. I also want to welcome Himanshu Vardhan, who's the Managing Director for Etsy in India, and he's the driving force behind this initiative. Thank you so much for joining us today, Himanshu. So this session will be moderated by Supriya Dravid, and Supriya, as you all know, is the former editor of Elle India. Under her directive, the magazine has become more inclusive and diverse in its focus and coverage. Elle India is the only magazine to feature global icons like Oprah Winfrey and Tan France on its covers, and we can thank Supriya for that. Before Elle, she had stints at Harper's Bazaar and India Today. She's also the author of A Cool Dark Place, a novel of fiction that was published by Penguin Random House. Welcome so much, Supriya.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you. So Supriya, we'll be steering this conversation with Max today, but we'll also take some audience questions. So you can post them in the chat box. And in case anyone's internet goes, please give them a couple of minutes to join again. And over to you, Supriya, now. Take it away from here.
Thank you, Sunanda. Hi, Max. It's so nice to have you and finally see you after so long. I'm going to start with a little introduction as to who you are. And I think, Max, I mean, I've worked with so many people in my lifetime, but I think I've learned immensely from Max during my time at Elle, and was fortunate enough to visit Kalhat and get a one-on-one education from him. Max is a true visionary. He's a force of nature. He's French, Italian entrepreneur, and his heart truly belongs to India. And how do I put this? Max is a trailblazer, and his generosity knows no bounds. He believes that true empowerment comes with education. He is the founder of L'Atelier 2M, a design and production center which works with global powerhouse brands like Hermes, Christian Dior, Chanel, Oscar de la Renta, Alaya, Marc Jacobs, and Isabel Marant, amongst many others. Max trained as a fashion designer and had just finished working with Azadeen Alaya, the legendary designer, for 5 years before coming to India in 1993. He admits that at the time it had nothing to do with embroidery and craft in India. It was a happy mistake. In fact, he came as a young graduate of the IFM, that's the Institut François de la Mode, after finishing an MBA in Paris. He had proposed a study to the faculty on the opening of the Indian market to luxury brands. But Max relied on his intuition, and the study ended up helping Lacoste to enter the market. While researching, he realized the true potential about India's exceptional craft heritage. He spent the first few years experimenting, developing samples, and understanding how the communities worked. And today, Max's manufacturing unit is fully functional, vertically integrated setup based out of Bombay. In 2016, he established the Lucknow Design Trust, a non-profit entity dedicated to the recognition of luxury craft excellences in India. It was out of this trust that the Kalhat Institute was born in 2017. The training classes organized here aim to develop the all-round skill of artisans with potential. Today, I'm so grateful to talk to Max about how he continues to celebrate the legacy of India's craftsmanship and artisans and onto our global landscape. So Max, I want to start with the beginning. We know that how you came to India back in 93, but had you been here before? And you had in fact come to study the opening of the Indian market to luxury brands, and you ended up understanding the true potential of the crafts and legacy. And that's how you eventually set up your manufacturing unit, L'Atelier 2M in Bombay. How did it all come together?
Well, you know, you did a perfect resume of my journey in India, which is basically a mistake. You know, as you said, I came to study the luxury market in India in '93. because Mr. Alaya had told me that at the beginning of the 20th century, the Indian royal families were among the biggest buyers of the couture brands in Paris. So it was for me a mystery back in 93 why China would suddenly open up so much to luxury products, and why India was basically almost non-existent. So I wanted to see from my eyes. I came to India, realized very, very fast from the first week, realized that there was no market for luxury brand really at that time. It was really the opening of the market in 93. But what really shocked me, coming from an Italian family from Venice, what shocked me is that I saw all these crafts that did exist in the 16th, 17th, 18th century in Europe and in Italy especially, and in Venice, in fact. Okay, I'm thinking of block printing, silk weaving, embroidery. And suddenly I realized that in India, those crafts were everywhere. So I started my journey in Delhi, then I went to Jaipur. Of course, in Jaipur, it was an explosion of craft. And I truly couldn't believe that in 93, India was still producing on a very large scale things that we used to do in Europe 300 or 400 years before that. So, you know, I went back to France. I spoke to Mr. Alaya. I told him, you know, I just saw something which is amazing. And I think that we need to go into that direction. I think that we can no longer just oppose European craft, Indian craft. I think we need to merge the crafts together. And you know, we always say that we have a good star, and Mr. Alaya was my lucky star, because he said, yes, go for it and show me what can be done. So that's the way it really started. You know, I was working with him. He gave me the opportunity to experiment. He gave me the opportunity to prove that we could really merge the two crafts, a very technical craft like knitting in Italy, and then doing embroidery on the knits in India. And you know, I always said that there was no plan. Nothing was planned. I started making those swatches. I started making other developments in Jaipur, and so on. 98 is the moment I told Mr. Alaya that I would leave and set up myself in India full time. He got very, very upset. And, you know, that's part of the designer's experience. He got very upset, but I said, you know, I have to do it. I knew I had to do it. I went to India. That's the moment Stella McCartney joined Chloe. And that's when I just presented to Stella the samples that I had done in India in those few months, and she loved it, and that's how it started actually.
And over the course of this 2 decades, and you work with some of the global brands, do you feel that Indian crafts and its future depend on the world to save it?
No. I don't. There's not only one solution to save a craft. First of all, I don't think that we need to save craft. What we need to save is that we need to save the tradition of craft. We need to save the excellence. We need to save the techniques. Yes, those needs to be saved. Today in India, we have about, I would say, 50 million artisans in the country, women and men. So it's a quite large population, and everybody speaks about, you know, craft sector, but the reality of the craft sector in India is not one. It's a multiple identity of different crafts, of different situations, of mostly difficult situations in many parts of India. And then we have very, very few pockets of craft excellence that benefit, of course, from this exchange with luxury brands. So luxury brands will not save the craft. Luxury brands will promote, will sustain, will bring the Indian craft further. Okay, I have one conviction, is that today international luxury brands cannot avoid Indian craft. In fact, the reality of the market today is that all the luxury brands, and I say all, okay, there's not a single one, are at least producing something from India to get into their collections. So this is the reality of the craft. Save the craft, it takes many more directions. It takes a company like Etsy, which is essential. Etsy is in fact essential to give opportunities to all the women and men artisans of India to be able to sell their products, and that's essential. That's essential.
It's also empowering in many ways, right?
Of course. That's why I say, that's also the reason we opened Kalat, because one of the initial points of Kalat was to say that there's not only one way to save the craft. You need to educate the artisan first. Okay, you need to give them the tools to be able to understand design. You need to give them the tools to be able to market and sell their products. Okay, because it's fantastic to have a platform like Etsy, but then you need also to teach the artisan, how do I enter on Etsy? How do I photograph my product? What kind of product do I design for what kind of market? So we need to understand all that. They need to understand all that.
Yes, the surrounding education, that's also equally important. I wanted to ask you, we'll touch upon Kalhat a little later, but I wanted to ask you, given the range of the work that you do, what stage do you get involved when you work with brands, global luxury brands that we mentioned? What stage do you get involved, and how do you help define their design ethos through your work?
Okay, so first thing to make it clear, when I came in 93, 94, I immediately got convinced that the quality level of craftsmanship in India was not only at par with Europe, but was actually superior to the one we have in Europe. Okay, so that's a very important point to keep in mind, because if I had not had that conviction from the beginning, I don't think that I would have gone all the way since the last 25 years. So that was really the starting point, because I saw not only the dedication, but I saw the craft intelligence that was in the hands of all the artisans. Then what I realized is that what was missing, the link that was missing between this excellence and the luxury brands, actually was, it's like the opera conductor, the concert conductor, So I said that, okay, we need to design, we need to redesign this craft so that it can enter the DNA of the luxury brands. Okay, so today we have many brands. We are working with many brands, and sometimes people don't even realize that some of the products that we do are made in India. Because it doesn't carry, this big sign saying that this is a craft of India. No, the craft has been merged into the DNA of the brand, and that's what makes the beauty. Because suddenly you get this product that is essentially, it's essentially an Hermès product. It's essentially an Isabelle Marant product. But to be able to make that product, okay, only the artisans of India have the capacity to make it. So this is what we do, and this is the collaboration. So my stage of involvement is quite early, in fact, in the design process, because I will usually I start from the design process to give some guidance to the designers, to tell them this is possible, this is not possible, this is what I foresee, this is what I feel, this is the direction I think we should go. and then it's a real design dialogue with the brand.
What is the power of Made in India? Because you articulated very well by saying that one will never know that this is made in India because the skill set is so powerful. But do you feel that in your years of experience working with global brands, are there varying perceptions between them who may appreciate our craft's legacy a lot more than, say, a local designer? And have you often felt that designers and brands you've collaborated with, our craft's legacy is better meant and better suited for a global audience?
No, I don't think there's only one way of appreciating that craft. It's true that today a global brand like Hermès has a huge respect for the legacy of Indian craft. And without communication, without mentioning anything, maybe today Hermès is the international luxury brand doing the most in India for its craft legacy. Okay, and that's really part also of the history of Hermès, because we shouldn't forget that the owner, the descendant of the family, Jean-Louis Dumas, who used to run the company for 40 years and who really turned up the company, was a true lover of India. And he used to come to India since 1963. He came with his car to India, and this is a true adventure. He came with his car to India in 1963, and till the year he disappeared, he used to come every year to India. So there was really this strong relation between Monsieur Dumas and the country. So next to Hermès, of course, you have many other luxury brands doing fantastic work, sustaining craft and ensuring that there's a continuity of work given to the artisans and the companies they're employing. So I don't think. Well, then there's a second point that you mentioned, which is interesting, is that then you have also brands who are making a lot of things in India and are not at all communicating on it. In fact, if you go on their Instagram and you go on their social media, they will make you believe that those things are made in New York or Paris. Yes. Okay. So here I don't want to give names because it's that's not part of the subject. But we have, in fact, the two situations we are facing. We have the brands which not only sustain and recognize the craft excellence legacy of India, like Hermès, like Chanel, like Isabelle Marant, and then we have other brands that are manufacturing a lot of products in India, and they avoid to communicate on that in their, on their social media, and which I think is very, very sad, because it's kind of, misleading the consumer, getting them to think that this is all coming naturally done in their New York ateliers.
Ateliers, yes. And besides the handful of Indian designers here who take advantage of our embroidery heritage, what do you feel ought to be the responsibility of our own fraternity towards the crafts? Are we appreciating our craftsmanship and legacy now more, or do you think that we have a long way to go?
Well, honestly, Supriya, I think it's a much larger problem and question. Yeah. And I will enter a very sensitive zone, which is the political zone of craft. Unfortunately, the richest country in the world in terms of knowledge and craft, which is India, okay, doesn't have a clear policy aimed to sustain, to preserve, to educate craft and craftsmen. So I do think it starts really from that point. Okay, that's the first point, and it's not only an issue with the current government. It's been an issue since the last, since the last 30 years that I've been studying the subject. Okay, there's been a lot of small initiatives like Talat and like Kalarakstra in Gujarat and many others. So today we have a very black and white situation in India, where the black situation is that there's no government policy aimed to defend, sustain, educate, and boost the commercial potential, because you know the commercial potential of craft is enormous.
Yes,
and
there's a great economic power behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is in fact what is shocking me. What is shocking me right now is that if any other country in the world had that kind of resource, okay, would it be Europe? Would it be Americas? Would it be even China? I mean, China would be so delighted to have this kind of
Legacy,
resource. Legacy, of course. Okay, they would have turned it into an economic engine that would, nurture a full, large population and enrich the economy. Instead of that, we have a situation where we leave it to society, we leave it to the Indian society to sustain the craft, because there's this mentality that, you know, the craftsman is that guy down the road that that makes that wooden frame, or makes that marble temple. But it's so much more than that. It's so much more than that. So I don't think there's only one solution. You know, there's not one solution. We need the luxury brands. We need Indian designers. We need Indian designers to be committed to the fraternity of artisans, which means that when you work with artisans, okay, it's you take them on board and you're responsible for their livelihood, and you need to make it work so that they can work. But you know, at the same time, the fashion scene in India, you know better than anybody what is the fashion scene in India. And it's, everybody always gets excited by the fashion scene. When you're in India, everybody gets excited by the fashion scene. And then suddenly when you get out of India, you realize that the fashion scene is, if you take all the fashion scene of India, it's not even the turnover of one brand like Isabel Marant.
Exactly.
So then, you question yourself. You say, but how can I be in this situation? How can I be in this situation where we have 1,300,000,000 people, okay, out of which 50 million of these people are artisans, women and men, and we have a fashion scene which is almost non-existent, okay, on the global scene, on the global map. Unfortunately, the India fashion scene does not exist.
But how does one continue to increase their revenue streams? I mean, this is a very fair point that you mentioned. But like you also mentioned and told me that crafts is also the second largest sector, and embroidery, like you said, is a part of it. But how does one, I mean, I know you are doing more than your share of what needs to be done. But what do we need to think about when we need to continue to create, to increase their revenue streams, their livelihood?
Well, I think that we need a large commitment from the Indian society. I mean, this is what we need. We need a large commitment from the Indian society. Today, about 95% of what is produced by craft people in India is sold in India. Okay, only 5% is exported. So you see the balance of things. So things do depend on the Indian market. We cannot expect the salvation to come from abroad. Of course, you can increase the exports. Okay, this is a totally different subject. You can increase the exports 2, 3, 10-folds. Okay, if you have the right tools to do that. Okay, but today, every week I get messages from companies and different small designers in Europe, in America, okay, trying to connect with manufacturers in India, and they don't know where to go, they don't know where to find them, they don't know. So we need to find a kind of way to connect the people. Okay, and this has already improved because with social media, with Instagram, okay, things have improved. But there's not a one solution that is the that it's a solution that will save everybody. No, there's a much larger solution, which is we need to communicate to the Indian society that yes, they need to purchase from their craftsmen. They need to, and even if it's 2, 3, 4, 500 rupees more expensive, okay,
you have to
but they
sustain
need,
them.
you have to sustain them. You need to stop purchasing those polyester products coming from China. And here I'm not entering, it's been a subject that since 20 years I've been fighting against, not understanding how we could import so much polyester printed disgusting fabrics from all the countries around of India and not sustain all the producers making those beautiful cottons, making those beautiful fabrics. Yes, those fabrics are more expensive, but there's a reason they are more expensive. They are done by hand, they are done with love, and they are done with the tradition of the country.
There's been another point that I wanted to ask you is, there has been a reverse migration now due to the pandemic, but you've also advocated that the crafts cannot be sustained if you take the artisans away from their family nucleus. You've always said that we should be the ones moving. I know you'd also mentioned that your plans to open a factory in Agra and all of that, but it's a very fair point because you always said that they perform better when they're surrounded with family. And that shows that love and energy transforms onto what they are creating. Do you want to talk a little bit about that sort of ideology and how it has helped you over the years?
Well, it's not that it has helped me over the years. It's it's the same thing. It's the same thing for me when I'm in India. When I'm away from my family for too long. It's difficult to it's difficult to live. It's difficult to work. So it's the same thing for everybody. Okay, it's not because you're an artisan going from Uttar Pradesh or Bengal and coming from Bombay. Why should this be different? It's exactly the same situation. Okay, and this is also the reason we opened Kalat in Lucknow, and we opened the production unit in Lucknow and not in Agra. Okay, reason being because a majority of the embroiders do come from the region, so it was much easier for them to reach Lucknow rather than coming to Bombay, which is becoming this overcrowded, too expensive city where the quality of where actually there's no more quality of life. So how do you expect someone to be committed to his work, to be committed to quality, to be committed to excellence when they are surrounded in an environment which is not helping them to perform better?
I also know that with the idea behind Kalhat was so evolved because it was not just to, I want to stress upon what you told me earlier, it wasn't just about equipping them with that skill, it was also about giving them a wholesome perspective on how to do their crafts and like what you said, training them on the other skill set. Do you want to, and also a process of sustaining them, and there's a very valid point that you had made to me 2 years ago, where you said that after training them, yes, it's very easy for me to absorb them, but you also want them to go out and search for jobs because of the skills rather than bank on the option of coming to me. And I thought that was a very, it's like being a hard taskmaster, but it's a sort of a right approach to help them get that ambition. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Of course, Kalat is the result of all these years of dialogue with the artisans. It's the result of this dialogue. It's also the result of training them for so many years and realizing that basically, if they receive the right education, if they're given the chance to learn, if they are given the chance to express themselves, they are just amazing. They're just amazing. So how do you sustain? How do you encourage artisans to be proud of what they're doing, to to go further and to see much further than their, the house door that they leave every morning to come to work and then they go back. So this is what really Kalat is about, and it is also the reason why Kalat is a complete private experience, because it was very important for me to be in control of being able to put all these years of experience with them into the curriculum. Okay, and I had no doubt when we started Kalat with Jaspal Kalra, who's the director of the institute, and all the team, that we would succeed. It was there was this feel from the beginning that it was the right format. If we give the chance to anybody to study, okay, if you give them fellowships, if you sustain them and you give them the opportunity to study and improve themselves, anybody will accept that. And that's exactly what happened in Lucknow at the institute. So now it's the third year of this very special experience, this journey that we just started. As I said to Jaspal and all the team, we will be able to assess the results in 10 years. 10 years is the time frame that I've given myself to not only sustain Kalat as a trust, but also to prove that through a different way of education, mixing formal education and a much more entrepreneurial education, if you give those tools to motivated people, okay, they can make wonders. And that's exactly what happened. In fact, it's in fact I'm at present the institute is reopening in 1 week's time from now, because we had to close because of the pandemic. We had to close the institute, but now we are reopening. And it's been fantastic, because the students which are aged between 19 to 55 years old. Okay, it's not something which is just for youngsters. No, okay, it's you need to be motivated. You need to prove that you want to be part of the Kalat experience to enter the institute. And I was thinking that we should keep the institute closed for this year, unfortunately, because of the global situation. But actually, the students said, no, now we reopen, and we will work in small teams, and we will work maybe less hours, but have some turns of groups, and we will make it work. So that's very exciting, very exciting.
How wonderful. It's so refreshing to hear that, right? I mean, it's just,
Yes,
especially at this time.
Yes, it's refreshing, but it's also very important. It's
Yes.
very important that we are able to, I always say that it's part of my commitment to India. It's that we if we don't do that, okay, we cannot expect the government to be everywhere. Okay, this is also another reality of India, is that sometimes I listen to, I hear a lot of things saying, oh, the government is not doing this, the government is not doing that, blah, blah, blah. But, first of all, the government has so many other priorities. Okay. Yes, the government could communicate more on the craft community and could empower them more in a more direct way. Okay, but then it's also, if we want to do it, you have to do it. Okay, we didn't wait for the government to help us. We did have the help from the local authorities to open the institute. Even though it took like 3 years to get the authorizations. So still, it's the time of India.
I remember you got a palace as well as a building. Like, I can't do this space.
Yeah, it's not really a palace. It's a beautiful house from the 30s.
Yes.
But But then it's we have to prove that it's working. We have to prove that the curriculum is working. We have also, I mean, our commitment is towards the artisans. It's not towards the government, to the local authorities, or to any other entity. No, we have to show them that it is possible, that they can improve their revenue, and on that level, okay, it's the Calat experience has proven extremely successful for some of them. Okay. Then there is also the natural market. Okay? Some people are more gifted, so some people are more successful, and this is also what Calat shows, is that if you are able to succeed with design, marketing, communication, then you become you can really change your life. And that happened to in fact that happened very fast to 3 women. Okay, I must say that once again the women are more are more. It's a very interesting thing, women got more challenged, and the the jump that those women did is phenomenal.
Beautifully put. I'm going to also start with some of the audience questions, because there are lots I can see piling on. Well, 1 second, let me start from the top. Okay, there's a question here from Apurva that says, how can we change the image of the craft sector amongst the youth? And can you speak a little bit about Kalhat, which you did? What does the word Kalhat mean, and how is it doing? So 2 questions there, yeah.
So to answer Apurva's question, she's right. How can we change the perception that youth has of the craft? Because this is also one of the key points of the problem. We need. So in fact, I would tell Apurva that there's a huge issue in India. Is that India has certainly the biggest number of fashion schools in the world, for a fashion market that almost does not exist. And on the contrary, India has almost very, very few craft design schools. Okay, there's very, very few craft design schools. And artisans, they need designers. Okay, we cannot expect artisans to be designers. That's wrong. Okay, there's always one exception. There's an exception out of one out of 10,000 where an artisan will be able to be a designer. But artisans, they need designer. Artisans, they need entrepreneurs. Artisans, they need people to guide them, okay, and to work with them to make their products successful, to market the product, to communicate. So, this I would say that Apurva, I don't know how to make the youth more committed to craft. That I don't have the solution. We need a campaign. We need Etsy maybe to communicate more on that. We need links between design schools and global players, but I don't have the solution. But she's right. We need to have the youth more committed to the Indian crafts. She's right.
I think, yeah, because there was one question here that said, do we need to incorporate that in our Indian educational system, because it is missing at this point of time?
Of course. This is, but this is why we always end up with this bloody education. It's that I think that the way we educate our youth in India is not correct. Okay. Of course, I'm passionate about history. Of course, I'm passionate about India. But that does not explain that why do I know all this history about the legacy, the DNA, and the craft of India. It's simply because craft is not a part of the education system in India. So if you don't expose people, at a young age, okay, because this needs to be done at a young age. If you don't expose people at a young age on craft, if you don't take them to visit ateliers, if you don't take them to to craft museums, if you don't take them to to interact with all this experience, then they cannot become sensible to this unique thing that is the craft in India.
Yes. There's a question here that said, what does Kalhat mean?
Kalat is a completely invented name, but it's basically very simple. It's a kal and hat. Okay, so it was for me the way to join two things, which is the hand and the art. So basically, it was a way to symbolize the art of the hands and the excellence of the hands, meaning the excellence of craft in India.
There's a question here from Astha that says, do you think a Make in India 2.0 is possible in this scenario? And if yes, what can we do to ensure it is successful?
Well, yes, I think it is not only it's possible, but we have to make it. We have to make it with a very craft-oriented dedication, and it can be done if every company is linked to the other one. If really it becomes a national priority. Okay, this is what it requires, and I do hope it's gonna happen. We know that things do take time in India, but if I look at the last 25 years, Supriya, things have changed. Okay, from a completely desert landscape that was there 25 years ago, because 25 years ago, it was really very, very few ones looking at the craft. There was one of the pioneers that people should look more in India, which is Brigitte Singh, doing a fantastic work in Jaipur, reviving since 40 years block printing. But what I wanted to say is that 25 years ago, there was just this pinpoint through all the country. And since things have evolved, the market has opened up. And yes, people have become more conscious about this heritage, because the craft heritage is as important as literature, as cinema, as any kind of other arts. Okay, and this is also a very important point that we keep forgetting, is that before the period of the Raj, in India, arts and craft were exactly the same thing.
Yes.
Okay, there was no difference between arts and crafts. Okay, it was either done by the same people, either done by the same group of people. Okay, and it's only after 1857 that we had this separation of craft and arts in the country, which was done, unfortunately, by the British. And it was a way for them. It was a cultural, it was a cultural way to control the country and to impose their culture and their arts in the country. So we should never forget that arts and craft before that was never separated. It was the same thing.
There's a question here from Shambhavi. That's a very pertinent question. Any trends or forecasts regarding artisanal work post this pandemic? Essentially, how do you see the future in this new normal? Let's say to the Max crystal ball.
that's the moment where I would need my crystal ball. Okay. So, yes, the situation right now is extremely difficult. Okay. The reports I get from all the states, from many parts of the countries, are in fact extremely depressing, because this pandemic is destroying years of work that have been done by NGOs, that have been done by small designers, bigger designers, because those designers, those companies also are suffering.
Yeah.
So this is the reality of the situation through the country at present. But this is the reason we need more commitment from the Indian society. This is the reason we need everybody to buy this made in India, made in local India. Okay, even when we say made in India, we need people to be committed to to the artisans which are in their area or in the states. And this is they need you to support and to go through this crisis that, unfortunately, if I look at the things and the way it's going, okay, will not end before 2022. I mean, the scenarios right now are extremely bleak and dark, and even here in Europe, it's I was last week in Venice to meet with the glass artisans of Murano, and even in Italy the situation is dramatic. Okay, in Murano we are left with just 30 companies doing glass. Okay, from 100 years ago. So we went from 300 companies to 30 companies doing glass work in Murano, and everybody agrees that most probably 10 more companies will disappear in the next 6 months. So the situation, this is to say that the situation is dramatic everywhere, and we need the commitment of every local person who is able to purchase, to spend for their house, for their homes, for their family, to buy from local artisans.
The question here from Meenakshi Max that says, do you think it is important, how can one from outside India work and connect with Indian artisans for their brand? Is it easy?
No, no, Meenakshi, it's not easy. But I would say that nothing is easy. It's
nothing good is easy. Yeah.
No, nothing is good is easy. The only recommendation I would give Meenakshi is just that you just go for it. You go for it and you believe. That's what we also teach the artisans in Lucknow, is that if you want the change to happen, you need to change yourself. You need to change the way you see things. You need to change the way you understand the market, and you need to open up. So of course, right now the situation is complicated. But it's history has always shown us that it's in complicated situations that we have new brands, new models, and new designs coming up. So it's also what it's also what is interesting me in this difficult situation. I have two challenges right now in my own company. The challenges are that we need to keep the employment full and going on for everybody, and I went to see my clients to get the commitment from them that they would support us,
Yes.
that they would continue, and they committed to that. So that is the most difficult part. Then we need to what this change that we have, we need to reflect it onto the artisans community that we nurture. And so this is also what is interesting, is that I believe that a lot of interesting things are going to come out of it.
There's a question here from Sarika that says that she wants to understand your views and recommendations on the reckless exploitation of these artisans. A parallel of fair trade practices perhaps should also be applied here.
Yes, she's right. Many companies in India, okay, and I always found strange, that there's a kind of schizophrenic situation in India. Is that India, since long, always needed people from foreign countries to come in and to tell them, okay, this is the way it needs to be done. This is the way that needs to be done. This is and this is maybe the reason today I'm speaking here on Etsy. But for me, it's always been something of a mystery. You know, I said, how is it possible that a country so rich, a country that is unique, and I really want, I mean, I think I've repeated it already 3 times during this conversation, Supriya, but this is really something that, you know, I get crazy about, is that the situation, the craft situation, the craft environment, the craft legacy of India is unique. There is no other country in the world which has this panel of expertise and heritage like India. And, you know, people tell me, oh, but no, it's not true. You have it in South America, you have it in Africa, you have it in, blah, 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 blah. I said, no, 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 no. Okay, I've studied it. Okay, you have some things in South America, you have some things in Mexico, you have some things in Europe, but there's only one country that has it all, and this country is India. So yes, I find surprising that, but that was the case 25 years ago. Now we have more young people coming in, and the young people are more respectful of their practice than their elders, you know, and this is also what I'm realizing. So this is also why I'm optimistic at the moment, you know, because as I said, you know, it's time to clean up the old guard of that initiated all this, and we have more youngsters coming in, even in fashion. Okay, we know that there's young people, talented people coming in. What is missing to India is really a political commitment to sustain and to encourage craft and fashion and craft fashion design, basically. Okay, because this is only one thing: craft, design, fashion. This is part of all one group. It's all together. It works all together.
And the final question here is, what have you learned over the years? What has been your greatest learning?
Who asked this? Who is asking this question?
I think this, I don't know the name of the person. It says, there's no name over here. What's the most important thing you've learned on your journey as a craft and fashion entrepreneur?
Yeah, what I've learned from, you know,
the hustle is real.
What I learned from the craft journey in India is that, you know, had I know 25 years ago that the journey would have been so long, maybe I would have stayed in Paris. No, not true. Okay, I would have still taken the journey. And what I've learned from India is that you should never give it up. Never, never. You know, you try the first time, it doesn't work. You try the second time, it doesn't work. You try the third time, it almost works. You try the fourth time, it doesn't work, but the fifth time, it's gonna work. So, you know, that's what I learned from India. Never give it up. Never give it up.
And never give in either, right?
No, no.
Thank you, Max. It's been an absolute pleasure and a great honor to talk to you always. It always seems like an education whenever I talk to you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Supriya, and thank you to everybody who followed this discussion. Thank you.
I also want to take a moment to thank Supriya for being such an amazing moderator.
My pleasure.
And thank you so much, Max, for being a part of this session. It was just I wish this would have been like a longer conversation. It was it was great to listen to your insights, and I completely agree that there's just so much that still needs to be done in terms of valuing our cultural heritage. So thank you so much, audience. Also, I hope you enjoyed this session.
The questions are still coming in, I can see.
Well, we'll do another session directly live from Kalat next year.
Yes,
okay?
For sure.
Thank you.
For sure.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Audience, this is our next session, which is coming up on Saturday. We'll be talking to a Pichwai artist, Abhinav Bansal, and we'll talk about how he's working with a traditional art form like Pichwai. So hope we all can make it. Thank you so much again. Thanks for joining.
Bye. Thank you.